From where I worked, I could see the smoke, and everyone was shocked.
No airplane just hits two buildings by mistake.
None of us will forget the morning when we heard about what our fellow Americans were going through in Washington, in New York City, of course, and on the flight over Pennsylvania. But it's changed forever who we are as a nation.
For those people aboard Flight 93 who resisted the hijackers are now being remembered as heroes.
How have the events that occurred on 9/11 changed your life? What can you do? What can you do to remember the events that occurred on 9/11?
All of us remember 9/11. We remember the morning. Although we're on the West Coast, I think that none of us will forget the morning when we heard about what our fellow Americans were going through in Washington, in New York City, of course, and on the flight over Pennsylvania. And all of us, there are many of us here, different generations, we grew up at different times. I went to Oak Grove in the 80s. I graduated in 1989 before any of you students were even born. And I remember that there are always events that occur that we kind of think about where we were at that moment. I was at Oak Grove in my sophomore year Spanish 2 class when there was an announcement over the loudspeaker about the Challenger space shuttle explosion. And for me, as a high school student, that's a memory that was etched in my mind because it definitely had an impact nationally. It really affected us as a nation. Moving forward quite a few years to September 11, 2001, I think to an exponential level, that event not only had an impact on us at that moment, but has changed forever who we are as a nation. And the high school students that we have here today, all you Oak Grove Eagles, you were children, and really you're children of 9/11 because it will be very difficult for you to ever know what it was like before then, but for certain your lives have changed whether you know it or not since then. And the country that we live in is very different. And there are many ways in which, as we celebrate today in terms of remembering those values that bring us together as a patriot, calling it a Patriot Day, there are many things that do bring us together because of 9/11. But I do want to first start by remembering those that we lost and what we lost. On 9/11 itself in New York City, when the planes hit the World Trade Center, there was an incredible amount of chaos, not just in New York City, but around the whole country. And at the time the World Trade Centers were hit, you have to remember that there were approximately 3,000 people that died that day. Over 2,000 of them were at the point of impact or higher on the World Trade Centers. And the reason why I bring this up is because there were approximately over 17,000 people in the World Trade Center complex at the time those planes hit. Only about 110 people below the point's impact perished. Of course, you say only, for those loved ones, those Americans we lost, that's a tremendous number. But what that means is the first responders cleared out over 15,000 people from the World Trade Center in a very short period of time. And there were 343 firefighters, 60 police officers, both of the Port Authority and the New York Police Department that died, and 15 paramedics. So over 3 times as many people died that were first responders as civilians below the point of impact. And so when we think about what happens to us when there's an earthquake, when there's a car accident, when we have incidents in our home, where there's a fire or someone has a medical emergency, there are people that are working every day that come to our rescue, that run into burning buildings, that rush in to save us when we are doing our natural human instinct of running away. In fact, my chief of staff was working in New York at the time, and he was close enough distance to the World Trade Center that he got covered in all that dust. And trust me, there were tens of thousands of people fleeing that area as the firefighters and police officers and paramedics were rushing in. And I bring that up because we have to appreciate those that are willing to put their lives on the line to protect our families and to protect our property. Since 9/11, there have been more American soldiers, men and women, that have died than died on that day. And we cannot forget those that have given their lives, the tens of thousands that have been injured, and those that continue to serve today to protect our nation. However, I think that we also, as we remember those that are sacrificing, we also must remember what the sacrifice is for. And the sacrifice is so that all of us have the opportunity to achieve our dreams, so that all of us have the opportunity to seek a career or to seek a life that we're passionate about. And so when we think about those that have given their lives, and when we think about those men and women that are serving right now and potentially will be serving in the near future, let's not take for granted the opportunities we have. Let's not take for granted the fact that we have the opportunity to go to school when there are many people that are all your ages right now around this world that have to work to put food on the table, that don't have the opportunity for education. And so no matter what struggles we have individually as a family or as a community, know that we are so much better off than most people in this world, and that we are better off and able to take advantage of the opportunities because people are willing to serve to protect us. And so I just want to thank all of you for being here today. I mean, this is an incredible way of remembering not just what 9/11 meant to us at the time, but to remember how it has brought us together as a nation, and at the same time we must value the fact that as a free nation we must continue to bring in the best and the brightest from around the world and still be that beacon of hope and beacon of opportunity that we have been over the last over 2 centuries. And to do that, we must still live our lives in freedom, not live our lives in fear. And so thank you again to the men and women of the San Jose Police Department who every day go out on the streets, who every day are in our fire stations protecting us. Thank you to the paramedics and other first responders. And keep in mind that on 9/11, there were other first responders that included the janitors that were helping the firefighters and police officers go up and down those buildings, opening doors, helping rush people out. Over the weeks that followed, there were first responders, emergency personnel, janitors, communications workers that worked on site that got some horrendous respiratory diseases because they were there willing to step up. So it was truly a community effort of people that are willing to serve on our behalf. So today, let's thank them. Today, let's remember how lucky we are as a nation, and let's use today and let's use this weekend as a way of coming together and being thankful for what we have in our lives and for never forgetting the sacrifices that everyone has made for us. So thank you all for giving me a moment to share my thoughts on what today means to me.
Order! On!